is July 4th, we think, 2024. And the title of this video is, are you feeling some type of way right now? Meaning it's really hard to put your finger on it. Exactly what is that you might be feeling or sensing energetically, and more so personally, not for those that have gone through this process for the past 7 years. We have had to strip ourselves for many different reasons of everything that we used to be. A lot of us lost, per our perception, coming out of the matrix and simulation. We, in the 3D world and what everyone else saw and what we were having to personally do to purge a lot of our homes, our belongings, a lot of 3D things that weighed us down. And from various, including family members, including for some of us even connections with our children, because of who we were and what we were here to do. And because throughout the process, we realized and had to learn and master and remember from ancient ways how to create, how to have the things that we want in our 3D world and keep it balanced. We had to see with our very own eyes as we were purging 3D physical things, as well as purging out of contracts, banking contracts, employment contracts, insurance contracts, all of it. We collectively, as we were purging and dropping sandbags this past 7 years, in order to get our vibration into a frequency with a large group. So many of us throughout these past 7 years, you know, have hit, and even before that, the last 50 years, in our personal journeys, in different aspects. Some success is what you would call from owning companies and having successful establishments or successful peer groups or even a successful family life. All these terms that we were brought up wanting and desiring as a collective. When we obtained those things and we started putting sandbags in our balloon and tying our sandbag to a mortgage and tying our sandbag to a lot of land and tying our sandbag to groups and organizations and things like that, in an unconscious way, not consciously even really understanding who we're bringing into our balloon. Our only focus at that point was who could do what and help build what. And this is my whole journey for 24 years was in the staffing industry, in technology specifically. in an interview process, these are the things that in an interview process, you know, you got really good at uncovering, because you could find 200, 300 people, maybe some only one or two, they could do the actual skill set, but how are they going to fit into the team? Are their business goals in line? Are, you know, into the entire organization? And the way the process was set up is, you know, you can't get too personal about things and all of these things, but you discover ways to, and certain questions to ask, that helps an employer understand a little bit more about the person, because in the end, it's all about the people and the vibe and the frequency of the team. In unconscious life, you are only looking for who can do what and what kind of energy are they going to bring to the office. And then a lot of those times you really can't see the full picture until they're unified with the team and things are starting to get going. In these new energies, it's like all those unseen things that I just talked about in an interview, we pick up as soon as we see your name or meet you in this new now. Whenever you've cleared your energy and you start picking up on an aura field, or you'll pick up all types of subliminal information, and memories will come in just by them sending you a personal email now. It's so different than it used to be. And the reason I came on here is to talk about this is because y'all know this channel for me has been like a vlog, and I've been really open throughout this process, probably more than you wanted me to at times, talking about what's going on with me, where I'm at energetically, and what's happening with the collective as we're going through this massive process. And a lot of things have happened since June 30th, and I might get into more of those. But there's been a massive shift since June 30th. It's also why since June 30th, I think I've counted now 6 rockets that have gone up. And those 6 rockets, and the reason that they sent them up, Earth orbiting, and they're even telling you that they're going to be out there, you know, it's to watch the collective, it's to discover what's in the black hole. But the reason that it's happening right now is because of the astronomy. The new moon that will be tomorrow is on SIRIUS B. SIRIUS B is the collective mind. And all of us know that within this matrices and within all these different collective mind currents that form bonds, and then establish these patterns that result in a form of mind control. SIRIUS B, and a new moon on SIRIUS B, is establishing a new pattern of thought process. When you start understanding how collectively that works, this is why so many of us had to purge so much out of our old framework in order to hit a new collective frequency mind pattern to dominate an existing pattern. So if all of us launched balloons up at the same time, we dropped all of our sandbags up at the same time, we all elevate to a higher construct all at the same time, this is why all of those things and all these losses that we perceive in our 3D world, this is why they came to pass. SIRIUS B is also is your left brain. Sirius B is all about calculations. It's seeing patterns. Sirius B star seeds, you're in Sirius A as well, but Sirius B star seeds, which is 12 to 16 degrees of Cancer, which is at the bottom of the axis, holds a very, very high frequency as a collective in a low density. And so that if you go outside and you find Sirius B and you zoom in on it with your camera, you're gonna see it glitching, changing colors, and if you notice, it'll have all these little grid patterns, almost like a patchwork quilt. And in a lot of ways, it is how it works. It's a collective mind pattern that overlays over existing mind patterns. And we've changed it. We've changed it because in this new physics and in this new frequency and coming out of the wheel, where we are in space, where we're traveling towards in space as a collective on this giant star, the expansion that has happened of us breaking the wheel, even just a couple of us, is going to take at least 7 years to completely open up. Number codes. You're going to be seeing a lot more number codes, and you're going to be and realize that, again, back to the rockets and back to the reason that all this, what they're doing out in what we perceive as space, is attempting to connect into these currents, understand the currents in order to manipulate the story. In this expanded energy, and realize that all we've done to expand the energy is open up all of our DNA. Before 2018, there was only 3% of your DNA that was being utilized to create your reality. Only 3% of your DNA makes up what you look like because of your mama, your daddy, why you eat like dad, why you do this like grandpa. Only 3% of your DNA was utilized for that. The other 97% they called junk DNA. When this alignment happened, this million-year count, in order to rebirth Terra, Gaia, the planet, it really is like not an IVF, but if you took an egg and then you aligned it with the sperm, and out in the cosmos, this happened in order to turn everything back on. So all we've done, which is not just all, I mean, it's a lot, but at a micro perspective, what we've done is turn that back on within the body structure, like it always was in ancient days, before all this manipulation, before the flat earth, before, and all the years that happened in between. That is what's turned on our telepathy. That's what's turned on your power in your voice. That's what changes your reality now, with more of that energy and understanding, and all of us are watching it happen. But this is why our balloons were all floating together, creating these new patterns with all of your DNA turned on. In the old structure, it was very right and left brain, and pretty much all of the Egyptian stuff and the Egyptian myths and all Maldek and even the twin programs. I mean, all of it was always to put the right and left brain back together again in one sequence, and have a pituitary gland and a hormone structure that can operate within your cellular body in order to hold those right and left brain activities in its fullest. And it's been what the human race has been doing down here for the past millions of years, whether you knew it or not. It was always to get, and the bad stuff too, it was always to produce a body template. And the reason that we had Egyptian mummies, the reason we had Essene mummies, all of it was to produce a body structure and a DNA structure and a line that can hold it. And a lot of us that have already been through this, that are watching this, were in those lines. They had been produced a long time ago, is what we now know. It's just we were hidden. We were hidden in adoptions. We were hidden in different family lines. We had been abducted. We had been sold. We had been adopted. But that no matter, our balloons were always working together. They just weren't working together at the highest frequency. And that's how we were utilized in order to change all the things that we know that we were utilized to change, only because we've come out of it and now have seen it change as we're coming out of it. So right now, with the sun and the moon, which it's not quite there yet, the moon is just now coming out of Gemini, and it's about to go into Cancer. But when the sun and moon align in the middle of Sirius B, and I wish I had my other phone over here so I could look at the chart real quick, because right now I'm just complete. Mercury is in Leo, and that's the colors that I put up on the cover of this video, or that's the Leo barcode. Where Mercury is right now is it's in what I call the Cub degrees, and again, when you look at Kohu 32, those are 32 star rays. That there's 32 of them that go all the way around the wheel, but every degree in the wheel has its own energy because it's falling between them. So this isn't a star point, but I call it the Cub degrees because at the beginning degrees of Leo, you'll notice that people who have 0 to 5 degrees Leo, especially 0 to 3, they travel in packs. Kind of like the Hangover. They always have a group around them. They've always had a bunch of friends. They almost like a wolf pack. The Hangover movie just keeps blah blah. They do everything together, and they all have their own little characteristics about them that as a group make a whole. With Mercury there in Leo, and coming out of this Cancerian energy that's so deep, especially in this round, because we did change a marrow frequency in order to hold our balloons. And for me, I'm being reminded, and being more emotional. I'm becoming more feminine again, which is something I really don't think I've held ever in this lifetime, because of the mission I was on, because so much had to be completed, because so much had to be done. It's like so many of us had so many different traumatic events in our lifetime, and yeah, we got upset about it, and yeah, we were, when I lost my company, for instance, it's like and so many things happening and triple, it wasn't just one thing happening at the same time. It was 2 or 3 big life events that were happening all at the same time, and none of us really had the time to even reflect on it, because that wasn't the end. It was the traumatic, and the tower event comes, and we intuitively knew, okay, well, we've got to pull up our bootstraps, and now we've got to, we've got to keep going, we've got to keep going, we've got to keep going. And each time we hit these tower moments, especially with the things that I started out talking about this in the video, the Leo things, the more earthly things, the more spotlighted events that were with you personally, not the collective, that happened to you personally. We didn't have time to process it. And what I'm seeing with this new moon alignment, and the masculine and feminine, which is your right brain and your left brain, which is your creative brain, in unison with your calculated brain, it's bringing some of that up, especially because Mercury is in Leo, kind of hanging out by itself, and the sun, and now why can't I even, Venus, it's Venus. That's why I can't remember, because it's so close to me. Venus in Sirius C, right ahead of it. It's making us, it's almost like we're being like a wet towel. I'm seeing a wet towel, and we're squeezing it, and we're having to get all the water out of it. And it's just these little memories and thoughts that are coming up, that are triggering an emotional body response, is what it is. For all of us that went through this process, and to the rest of the world perceived to have lost everything, we've known from the get that the reason we did it was to manifest the timeline that we always knew that we should have been in and started 50 years ago, when it was manipulated as a collective. And it's real easy from a collective standpoint, and from a metaphysical standpoint, and from a unseen energetic standpoint, to know that, and to talk about it. And it's real easy for us, and it's how we've manifested it, because we know how the system works now. So we know that, we've been building whatever it is that our independent, not the collective, your independent role, how you're coming back into this new dimension. What was your overall mission? Are you building an empire of some sort for the collective, with new ways of doing things? Because that's what we were always here for. And it's really easy for us to sit here and talk about it, and to manifest it, and to do all the little pieces. The harder part that I'm feeling right now, which is why I even jumped on this video, is opening up to it again. For me, when I lost my company, and I lost my house, and I had built up a level of success that then I was about to go much bigger, and I was about to launch into the masses, technology, not just a service industry. And this is how, in 2013, when my company was stolen and the assets were stolen, this is what I was in the process of doing. I was in the process of expanding it all. And I know now, basically, I was putting in Cohu 32 lessons and things like that, but it wouldn't have been used in, didn't look quite like this, but because of my experience in communicating in the interview process, and how I was successful in making matches and all of that, now I know. I just always had Cohu 32 information about the stars inside my system. Now I know that the reason I was able to make successful matches was because I was picking up the frequency of everybody, and I could see the whole group, and I understood who would work well with different things, and then my clients started trusting me and taking my word for it. Now I know this brand is what I always had inside my Akashic library and inside my energy field in order to be able to do it. But I lost everything making that jump to interface with the masses. And so I found myself now, also for those of us who were masters, and for those of us who were leading this, I want everyone to realize that we scheduled time. A lot of us finished things early, and we finished this ascension very early. We really did. I mean, we had to change 4 years because we were like, screw this. This is why we reached the level of mastery and broke the wheel, because over halfway through the process, as a collective, we realized, hey, we're not going to make it if, we can't just bury our head in the sand for another 4 years. We're not going to make it. We're going to, and this is how this got so advanced so quickly, because we had to change 4 years in order to complete it. So we are giving ourselves time right now and I want you, and please hear me. We gave ourselves time. I know that we all want it right now. We know that the big piece of the war in our world, and we're dealing with little this and this and that, but from the highest perspective, it's already been completed. So although whatever little pieces that we've got to maneuver for these rockets and this and that, it's already been done in the hires, and everyone's connected. So we're all making our little moves independently within that higher pattern network of our balloon system. So we're no longer focused right now on that. It's been completed. Now it's just like that comet that flew into the sun, and us flying back into the energetic, and the Mercury being in Leo, which is the sun in tarot. Now it's coming back into our field like a sponge, and we're soaking up all these different data, all the different data and the timelines, and kind of organizing, if you will, energetically, in order for us to complete those things. But we won't be able to until our frequency matches it. So you have time right now, this July, to do this. I went downstairs and talked to my adopted dad, which I don't have a lot of personal conversations with him. In my world, we didn't talk about a lot of things. And he listened, but whenever I went down there just now, I was thanking him for not pressuring me, and I'm gonna start crying, for getting the brand out quicker. I was always in my masculine energy. I had to be, because of the DNA strands we were breaking, even, because with me personally, it was Sirian and Alpha Draconic. We had to take down all those DNA strands and produce a new frequency with it that had more feminine in it in order to dominate it. So I was always, my whole existence, in my masculine energy. And because so much of, like I said, so much had to be completed, so much had to be done within, even a 50-year time count. I was always pushing, pushing, pushing. Now we know that the feminine in us has to be merged in with it. And the whole process is a masculine and feminine dance to create anything. But what I was telling him is thank you for not making me feel pressured right now to make money. Because here's what I'm feeling. I'm terrified. I'm sharing this with you because I know that a lot of you probably feel the same way right now. As you're concentrating on what's coming next and even knowing what's coming in, because we know great things are coming. We know that we're elevating. But I'm internally terrified of building it all back up and losing it again. Now we know that what we're building is in a new energetic. We know that what we're building it consciously now, which is why it's so, so important for us to take our time and to keep it balanced so that we don't lose it again. But it's so much easier to lose when you've got nothing to lose. And that was their mistake that ended up allowing us to win. It really was, because they had pushed all of us to the point where we had nothing and we had nothing to lose at the end of days. We learned how to exist with almost nothing, almost no money. We learned how to exist and to operate with almost nothing. And you know, I hold major Venus energy. You know, 6 planets in Libra, and in a lot of ways, I'm walking Venus down here, and Venus is all about beautiful things. Venus is all about clothes and decorating and how things look and physical things. And so a lot of us that have Libra shopped a lot, you know. If you have a lot of Libra energy in your chart, then realize that at least for the past 30 years, you were monitored to figure out what you were buying and what you liked, because if you liked it, then they knew the rest of the collective would like it. And I'm sure if you've got a lot of Libra Venus energy, that you've created things in your mind, and then you go, you pull up TikTok now and you're like, oh, well, there it is. Oh, well, there it is. You know, now we understand how the creation process works to the collective down here, and people are picking up these different patterns because it's how it works. It's collective. It's not just your idea. It's out in the consciousness that anybody can pull that in and deliver it. But that's that Leo energy. That Leo energy is delivering it. That Leo energy is grabbing it and pulling together whatever you need to do to get it out to everybody. And in my first 50 years, I mean, I even grew up at a children's store. My adopted mother owned a children's clothing store. So I was 2 years old in the store, and I'd grab people's hands, and when they walked in the door, and I'd walk them around to the dresses, and I'd go, oh, your daughter would like this one because I have it, and your daughter would like this one because I have it. You know, I've pretty much, and everybody knew me as a shopper. Everyone knew me as always being Barbie-like put together. Everybody always liked the way I designed my clothes. They didn't have to be expensive. We know what looks good, you know, and now we even know that that's a royal trait within your DNA, being able to decorate, being able to design these outfits. through this process of purging from that old 3D, it's like that whole piece of myself in many ways was lost in a way. To the point where whenever I go to buy something now, and I'm being very vulnerable and honest, when I go to, especially on the internet, because of all the technology interference and how they were monitoring us through that, I freeze. Like I'm opposite the most of the masses right now, who are just like purchase, 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 purchase. But it's not just because at this very moment in time I don't have a lot of my personal money, but because even in my old energy, I would still be figuring out how to get whatever I needed or thought I needed. And I know that personally, this is one of the blocks that I'm clearing, and I called it in 3 days ago for me to clear it, and here it is. Because the brand and how we're going to get it out to everybody and help consciously get the colors and explain them and everything else is just that. Purchasing some posters, a blanket, a purse that you're carrying around, a scarf, you know. So my creation block, and what's so crazy about it, is that it's like the foundation of who I was. Because I'm not in the market putting money into the market, I know that is somehow freezing it a little bit on my end, because in order to get that current going, and it's not like go be crazy and run up 30 credit cards like I did when I was in college, because I mean I did that too, which is what also got me in a bigger situation way down the road. Because now from all that we know, we realize it was always all connected, and it will always come back to haunt you. You can't just write it off. It's going to hit you etherically, which is what, you know, had caused some of the things that I went through later on as it built, because I was on this planet longer. You know, it happened in my 20s, and so, but I didn't really get hit with the karma of it all until my late 40s and early 50s. But it will come back to you, because energetically it has to stay balanced, and energetically you've got to, you'll get balanced out. We all know that. So this is what I'm going through right now with Mercury, the mind, your mind in Leo, starting to build up that courage, starting to show you even the plans. I'm sure a lot of the projects that you have, you're starting to at least have more thoughts about how do I want to change it up? How do I want to get it out? You know, and these are the projects that we've had to work on and put down, and work on and put down, and work on and put down for years, because of the collective waves and the collective patterns that we were having to clear through these sedation layers. So I'm sure that many of you are getting a lot more mental clarity of how you want to get your products out, and you are in a lot of ways a product. If you're, I mean, to the people that are around you and how they view you and how you package yourself. And so as a collective, we're getting more of direction, but it's important for all of us to feel this. And if you're not going through this, please don't take that on if it's not resonating with you. But as Venus moves into Leo, and then as the Sun moves into Leo, and even as Mercury goes further and further and further into Leo, all the way up to Regulus, you can basically think of those planets as picking up more balloons. All those balloons are all scattered all over the cosmos in different dimensions. We're all up so high. We're all connected, running messages. Each degree and each planet that moves into Leo, you can think of it as like an invisible lasso field that's going to loop in more of those balloons until you get to the old Regulus degree at the end of Leo, which is your king and queens in the court. And what I mean by king and queen is that the king and queen per DNA is connected to more people on the ground. It's connected to more DNA sequences. It's an older DNA sequence. So as we get to like 20 degrees Leo, right now it's just in like 2 or 3. As we get to 20 degrees Leo, then that's whenever you're on the red cart, you're in the court. If we were talking about kings and queens in a castle, then at 20 degrees, now you're in the court. And then as it gets to 26, 27 degrees, you know, now it's like, oh my God, you're the lost princess, you know. But it's not necessarily about a castle and a crown. It's that you're connected to that many humans in those DNA strands. And especially in Leo, you know, the Leo energy is changing as well. The Venus retrograde that happened last year was massive. What we went through as a collective and for the feminine side of everybody in order to get everything balanced. And Venus stopped and went direct. It was in Regulus. It was all the way at the end of Leo. And Venus went all the way back to 12 degrees and 12 seconds on the money. This is why you might be seeing 1221 or 1212, or this is why. Venus has all the source codes. Venus has reality source codes. Venus tunes it for the collective. So in that Venus transit, what we were doing was having to reclaim all of us that were lost in history. And it wasn't just from a being standpoint, it was from a paternal standpoint, where the feminine had just been just like the land and earth. It was just being abused. Nobody was giving it love. Nobody was giving it any attention. Nobody was giving it any accolades. We had all forgot. And so that 12/12 Venus retrograde in Leo has retuned Leo, even to the point where the old Leo archetype would in an undescended Leo archetype, which a lot of us have twins that are Leo. A lot of it, especially if you're like me and you hold a lot of Libra energy. They got a lot of Leo in them. And that's why, because they were learning from us the feminine stuff. We were learning from them all that they deal with in their whatever Leo world, where it's all about them. And yeah, they could hit the limelight. Yeah, they could end up in the public eye. Yeah, but all of their energy was just focused on themselves, which is much like what I talked about of how I was for 50 years in my old energy. Whereas the feminine was seeing everything that they were doing and how it was changing everything, because they were only concentrating on themselves. They weren't paying attention to what ripples, tidal waves, snowstorms, freaking, they didn't want to see any of that. And so within all of us that are mastering this, and in order to finally have the audiences that we need in order to continue to communicate to the public what's going on. And as we're building up these ways that we all are starting to, you know, see in these visions of what's to come for all of us, we're having to keep that in balance. And it's never been talked about before. These are the, you know, the little snapshots even within the Hollywood culture that they would want you to think is reality from reality TV, but we all know now, you know, it's all scripted. They all run and hide when crap goes bad, and then they post beautiful pictures from 10 years ago to show you, oh look, I'm on an island, but we know, no, that's not where they are. They're in their closet crying right now. And this is the part that everybody wanted to hide. Nobody wanted to be vulnerable and tell what signing that contract ended up doing. Plus, they weren't allowed to talk about it. So, as a collective, this is what's happening. Oh, thank you. I'm co-hewing it over here. This is Sally Hansen. This is Sally Hansen. I think it's called like Quick Dry or something, Express, but this is I call it baby yellow. It's a light pale yellow, and it's the yellow that's in SIRIUS B. So I had blue on for SIRIUS B, and I changed it to yellow. It's one of the products that we're working on getting a box set, so that those of you that are, even you boys, because I know you boys paint your nails too, which is cool for some of you. Some of you can pull it off. The more Leo you got, the more you can pull it off, whether you got Leo or not. But just having, you know, we were talking about yellow, and just having yellow always in front of you and tuning to the energy. So thank you for seeing that. And so now that I've said all that, for those of y'all that are still left, yesterday, I'm like, I'll get more in depth now on just the Starseed mission. That 2018 energy that as a collective we were holding is what's pushing all of this out of us. It's coming back into us. And it's extremely divine feminine, not Eve. It's not Eve-like. It's not docile. It's not, oh, I don't really need anything. You can do with me whatever you want. Yes, I'm gonna be pretty, and I can be pretty, and you come take care of me. It's not Eve-like. It's divine feminine energy, which has been what I've been talking to you about. But 2018, we had built that energy up by cleaning the cosmos, cleaning Venus, doing all that stuff that we had to do as a collective, clearing the Trail of Tears, clearing all, I mean, everything. We had to clear everything. We also had to clear sexual energy. We cleared all of it. In that 2018, on the 1111 portal, what happened was the divine feminine went into the planet. I know, because it was me. I didn't know then that's what I did. That was the 11/11/2018 portal. I went into the bloodline. I basically kind of went into like a little womb cave, and then it was the end of February 2019, around February 28th, which I could swear was the 29th, because I think it was actually this year. Because up in those different atmospheres, there is no time. And we got a sperm sent to us. We had to alchemize that sperm cell, and that's what we did. It blew me out of the matrix when I did it, because that's when we reconnected all the recessive genes that I was holding in my template from ancient. Basically, the extinct has become unextinct within us. Now, when we did that, when the feminine energy and collective bubble had already cleared the cosmos, had already cleared way out, which is this expansion that we're going through right now. What happened each year is it was as we rebirthed and we were coming, so that energy bubble always stayed. It didn't go anywhere. We just had to go deeper. So in 2018, that bubble from clearing from way out there to a connection to way down here, that we were holding everything out in this new Sirian field that's connecting right now on this new moon. Our bodies were holding it out. It had already been hollowed out. It was already there. We just had to go back in. And so what's happening right now in the simulation, even in the continental, in the hemispheres, in the prime meridian, in the equator, in a hemisphere flip and everything else, is that we are just now, as a collective, coming out of that. We're just now, and it took 5 years. It took 5 years, a year at a time, to connect and purify it, and more to wake up and connect into it, in order to reach the plateau, to connect back into the feminine cosmic, if you want to call it like a cosmic net that we had made back in 2018. And yesterday, I know that for a fact because I came back. It'd been 5.5 years since I had contact with the being that I did the actual actions of pouring water into the gold cup and pouring water into the silver cup. And she was in Australia in the water, and I was tuned into Maui. So it's like we had a triangle delta set up from Maui to United States to Australia whenever we went back in, just to give you an idea of how close it was to Antarctica that all this energy was birthed from and coming out of. Everything pretty much the past few days has been all about 2018. So when I connected with her and we were catching up, one of the things that and I've known this and I've talked about this before, but since I connected with her, because it's almost like she was in the physical spot that I needed to go in etherically, basically. But she didn't have the RH negative factor and the AB factor and the incarnate template. She was connected to it and a big piece of it, but she didn't have the one that could go raw into marrow. So that's why we traded batons. That's why I went in to rebirth. And that 5.5 years, she had been just guided to do massive amounts of research on everything that had played out in my life. It was showing us yet again how we're all connected into one collective mind, and showing us yet again all the research that each one of us has had to do over this 7-year process, how it was going into a collective mind pattern. But more so, I think what's important for everyone to understand is the more Venetian energy that you have and the more they want to call us the chosen ones, or but if you're just if you just end up being the leader of a DNA sequence, and now so just because it's how the cosmos is tuned in this what's coming up, it's gonna act out in your life. So it's like all of you and her specifically were getting called to research Crowley, getting called to research H.P. Blavatsky. Well, in whatever cosmic time that was, I'm sure, absolutely positive, these are just two examples that, because I ended up walking that whole thing. Brotherhood came to get me. They tried to DOD picked me up, had me fingerprinted. I mean, all the black magic bullshit, the satanic church bullshit, like all of it was showing up in printing in my free-flowing reality, because whether or not it had happened yet to the collective or not, it was already written and intentively written for it to happen. And so like I was seeing things and living it years in advance before the rest of the collective got hit with it. And this is also why it was so hard to believe me and what all was happening, because it was happening to me because it had just gotten written to happen to everybody else. You know, it's like everybody else doesn't start realizing that it's happening to them until maybe years later, but then you remember hearing me talking about it, and now you can identify, oh shit, that just showed up in my life. That's RNA. So the reason that I'm also bringing this up, because for those of us who have had to fight all this mess and overcome all of it, just to dominate it, just so that we could pull the freaking frequency up and merge it all together, now I highly suggest not, at least for like the next 6 or 7 days, if you've been doing a ton of research on whatever it is, whatever your specific, whatever area that you gravitate to, don't. Instead, what you need to do is completely immerse yourself with that time that you would have spent researching or whatever, concentrating on what you want to bring into your bubble. We've already mastered all that. You'll know, because you're connected into, if the stuff starts going off and you end up having to make a play, something that was connected to the research that you had done before, what will happen is, because now we're so involved in the creation process and the unseen in ways that we're still mastering now, in order to teach the rest of the collective how this cosmic energy works, in order creating your own reality and 3D things. What it does, if you take this next 5 to 7 days, and with that time, research, I don't know, like right now we're working on the cards. We're researching how to get those delivered. What's the paperweight? What's this? What's that? If you know that it's, even if you're just looking up different homes that you want to live in, even if you're just looking up vacations that you want to go on, even if it's whatever it, I highly suggest not making it about a person, because it gets tricky. Trust us on that. But spend that time in planning in your mind and focusing and spending your focus, your eye focus, especially with this new moon, on what it is that you want to bring in. And what'll happen is, after that, you're soaking all that up in, then what you'll be in any of your research that you're guided to go do after that, and as a collective group, even, you'll be getting the research, and the information is leading you to show you how and what you need to do and change in order to get that in your life. Because it's basically what we did. We attached to all of the ancestors. We attached to every single energetic layer that was down here, from the core all the way out into the furthest part of the galaxies that you could ever even imagine. And all of us worked together in order to break grids, to do this, to do that, right? Because we were all researching all those different things, and it was sending to the collective our movements and what we needed to do and give us the information to do it. But we were having to do it from a cosmic, galactic, overall collective, shifting the planet, clearing the planet, all that crap. So that's how it works. So, for instance, if you have been one like me and even the Australia crew, which peace, if you have been having to go to Google Earth and you've been having to go look at different land masses and river masses and all of these things, after you input what it is over these next 5 to 7 days on what it is that you and your Pacific world know that you need to create for the whole and for yourself, then you might get guided to go look up Google Maps. But what you're doing is breaking any binds that are stopping you from bringing in the magnitude of your creation, is a great example. So this is the best way to utilize this energy right now, also because Jupiter is on Aldebaran. Jupiter's been on Aldebaran. In fact, one of the girls caught the moon going over Jupiter, and man, it created this crazy picture. It looked like it was like the moon disappeared for a while. It was almost like a Kazemi, but it's not, because it's the moon, but it looked that way even from the pictures. And Aldebaran is what you call Archangel Michael, but it's one of the archangels, and the whole cosmos was working like a three-legged dog down here, because the Sagittarian energy from Antares wasn't making it all the way to Aldebaran, which is Sagittarius. I don't know if this is opposite, but Sagittarius straight down, 9 degrees Sagittarius, 9 degrees Gemini, is that axis, that archangel axis, a royal axis, and all the knowledge from Sagittarius and all these unseen things and creation things that I've been talking about here are Sagittarian mastery of elementals with human beings in bubbles. So that information of all this knowledge and how you use your energy and how we connect and wasn't ever making it all the way down to Michael. Same thing as Moses going on top of the hill and standing. He's like Moses was like, I'm over and out. I'm gonna go sit at the top of the hill. I just carved this freaking commandments and I come down, and what are y'all doing? Y'all are worshiping a golden calf and going in circles. Well, that's because the collective wasn't getting the full message. Only Moses did. Moses needed everybody else to pull himself up all the way. Another Archangel Michael thing is, you know that you've mastered this Aldebaran energy whenever you hear you've got to move a mountain. Because from a 3D human perspective, without the mind, a collective mind consciousness that can move mountains, you're going to want to just climb it. Archangel Michael's protecting everybody, and he's like, here, follow me. We got to get up to the top of that mountain. Then he gets up there, and he's so damn tired that he's like, okay, now we got to build everybody's houses. Like, now we're up here. Now what are we going to do? You're looking up at the sky, and you're going, there's supposed to be a cosmic connection, but damn, you're so tired from cleaning the mountain, building everybody's houses, friggin' getting all the wounds, friggin' everything else, that you're so damn tired you can't even connect to that Sagittarian energy to tell you what to do next, because it's going to be something so off from your 3D perspective that its perception is you can't do it. Well, that's what's changed. So Jupiter is aligning to more of that energy and expanding everything into an expanded multiverse field to where all of those energies can intertwine in this higher Syrian network in order to produce it. Knowing that is then when you start realizing your little piece of the pie. But then from a higher perspective, you even realize that every little thing, you buying a horse farm and you doing this and me doing this, and even though it appears as I'm not as conscious because now I'm selling products according to the spiritual world, they're infused with consciousness and we're actually just slipping it under your door to lead you down the road to go discover Cohu 32 and really get down to the bottom of how you can do it too. And all of it's connected into a massive network so that each of us hitting our next goal is pushing the other, even though it appears to be from a micro perspective that it's not all connected, but it is. That's what this new mind SIRIUS B piece is. Knowing how all of us work together in order to climb the mountain, to make the connection and to jump. Not to just have to go back down the mountain. Very dizzy, yes. I've been super dizzy. The other thing is work on what we learned to embody this energy is muscles. Your inner thigh and outer thigh muscles are very important. For a lot of us, this past couple of years, it's like our muscle mass has literally changed because we had to change the blood frequency. The marrow is what's changing. And you know, as Neptune comes into Aries next March is when the collective and the whole record's gonna completely scratch, because the new marrow base and how the reality is even, this is why the glitches and we're seeing crazy crap happen around the world, because understand that that collective consciousness is what projects the reality, the most dominant one. This is why all of this was being done, so that others, parts of species that had gone off on their own and kind of hijacked the reality, this is how everything got tuned to their energy, and they could create all this crazy stuff and monopolize it, all because they just had control of this higher DNA strand. Your inner and outer thigh muscles, so doing, protect and build up muscle around your coccyx in order to make the full connection. So if you, and you might not even want to start out doing, like, you know, some little squats. You can do this while you're watching me on YouTube. You can do this while you're watching your TV shows, whatever. But if you just do like 50 squats with your legs out, you know, in a parallel to your shoulders, and then like 50 squats with them together, and do a couple of sets of that. If you're not ready for that yet, even just while you're laying down before you go to sleep, laying on your side and doing like 50 leg lifts for the outside, and then do the inside 50 times and kind of switch back and forth. That really helps a lot, not only with your connection, but it will start melting your fat. It's really crazy. Y'all try it. It's those inner and outer muscles in developing those. We have learned in this new body template helps get a lot of the extra weight and even the weird cellulite that has been put on our field in the past couple of years. That new muscle tissue right there with this new frequency, it really kind of puts it out throughout your whole body and assists in getting us out of this lethargic body state that we've had to be in, because we were basically going through a marrow transfusion as a collective. If you have a swimming pool or you can get into water to do it, then it'll work extra fast. But also realize that whenever you get in the water and you're utilizing water, that you're not just kicking water. In space, your etheric body is basically moving and making cosmic energy waves whenever you do it in the water. And so just hold the side to the pool and do front leg kicks like a ballerina, like 10 times, to the side 10 times, to the back 10 times, and then rotate and do that a couple of times. And if you have access to water or a pool, then it'll happen so much quicker. But realize that you are moving more denser energy in your bigger etheric body when you do it. The other thing that for the first time, and those are tricks that I learned in 2022, right before I went raw. Right before I went raw, I had to get in the pool and do that pretty much like 4 times a day in order to build up that muscle tissue in order to sustain what was going to happen next. Now I know. And my legs look like Barbie legs. And I feel that already, that template that we made already starting to, I would say, congeal, like conjugate, like, I don't even know what the word is, but I want to say congeal. Like, I feel like that body template that I developed with right before I went raw in 2022 is the template that I'm sculpting my way back into, but I'm not even having to work as hard to do it. The other thing is the gua sha and the face yoga, and just looking at YouTube videos and doing face yoga, and or getting a gua sha tool, which I found at Walgreens, FYI. Like, I didn't have to order it. I couldn't believe it. They had them at Walgreens. I think it was like $13. And doing those gua sha tools, especially on your lymph nodes, and clearing all of, and developing these different facial muscles. I mean, because the reason that we have wrinkles in certain areas is because of brain production in the old energy set, and all of, kind of like old scar tissue that builds up because it's not moving correctly, and especially the lymphatic system on your neck and behind your legs. I've been using the gua sha tool on the weird cellulite that had built up on the sides of my legs, but not just from an aesthetic reason, because I know that my fluids kind of got stuck in some of those cellular structures, and that's what creates the bubbly, and just getting your internal fluids running through you in a more circuitry, while building up your strength around your coccyx, so that as a energy being, it's all working better in an energetic bubble and machine. And so those, and it's also helped me get more into my feminine energy, because, I mean, for the longest time, it's like, I mean, we weren't doing anything like that. We didn't have time to think about that. Our brains were out in the cosmos, and a lot of us didn't even, you think, because where you are, if you're in a cave, you don't got a sink and you don't got a bathtub, and so a lot of times you stop doing some of the hygiene things and things that you normally did that your whole life, and suddenly you changed the way you were doing them. Well, it's because etherically, where you were in this whole time crazy process, there might not have been a sink. You might not have had water. you know. I mean, these are the things that we've learned. So that doing these little bitty things has been helping me get more into my self-care again and my femininity. And I can feel the circulation starting to pick up and not keep everything so segregated within my energy field and within my body fluids, to where I feel like my it's starting to work again more properly and naturally. That I don't know. Amber said something about, is this on a loop? This is live. So I'm going to have to go back and watch this live, because when I went to create it, and I might even change the cover of this live to the timestamp. When I went to turn on this live, it told me I was going live, and it was, the stream was set for July 1st at 10:49 p.m. The one that I opened up today, July 4th. On YouTube, it told me that I was going live on July 1st at 10:49 p.m., which was right when we knew they were going to try to put us on a time loop. And right before I came on this video, man, I've got all this stuff around me. I was like on and off. Should I go on? Should I not? My Leo and Mercury was going off. Do I need to do my hair? Do I need to do, which is normally stuff I don't. You know, it's like I was going through this little internal battle even to turn this on. And finally I was like, just turn it on. So Amber, thanks for pointing that out. Yes, I'm live. If it's looping for some reason, know that we're controlling it, because that July 1st that July 1st date stamp, just I couldn't believe it. I'll change it to that. It's nuts. Who knows? Who knows? Now I'm gonna hang up, but I want to read something to y'all real quick. There's a couple of versions. I have a book written that I wrote in 2018 when all this energy came in, before the colors even came in. When the more organic information was coming in about the star systems and what lessons you're learning when you have these star systems in your chart, or if the collective is just on that energy. And I've got a book, but what I ended up pulling up was the stuff I have written for an app, because I know at some point we're building an app that people can pull up their charts and da-da-da-da-da. So this is a shorter version that I have written for the app, and I want to read SIRIUS B. So SIRIUS B energy. And this is 12 to 16 degrees Cancer. This is where the sun is right now. This is where the moon's going to line up for the new moon in this cycle. SIRIUS A, which is at the beginning degrees, it goes A, B, C from a flat standpoint, but energetically it goes A, C, B, just like a shell. SIRIUS A is more of an original organic Cancer energy of Sirius, the organic and macro. So SIRIUS A is going to be, it's going to be the heart. It's going to be all circulation. It's going to be what blood processes through it, and then SIRIUS B is going to be the mind and how that fuel goes in. So SIRIUS A is going to be macro. SIRIUS B is going to be more compressed. But the larger population of Sirian starseeds are from SIRIUS B. For example, the original energy of Castor and Pollux would be in SIRIUS A. But Castor and Pollux actually manifest in SIRIUS B. In this new now, all of these A and B which is also A and B blood, A and B aspects have merged with Sirian starseeds for the entire collective. But for purposes of realizing personal energy frequency, we will be separating for inflow. Inflow's the word that I had come up with, but this is just us all working together in a unison as individual seeds, utilizing the same energy instead of being stacked on each other through sedation time layers, which is how it was. Sirius B starseeds have a stronger pull to left brain activities and are not as integrated into the overall macro perspective. However, the most brilliant minds we have seen in human history come from Sirius B due to the overwhelming calculation capability of the mind. Seeing overall patterns, number patterns, frequencies, sciences, technologies, etc. This placement brings a strong sense of mission, striving, pushing to succeed, leadership. The Akash is so vast that you have the ability to retrieve any of this data and make sense of it. Now, the reason, too, that we have so many Sirius B starseeds down here is because if you know anybody like I do that was on my journey, or even in the 50s and 60s that have seen the stories of people who had a walk-in, not you reconnected to your ancient side of yourself and now there's more of you coming in, but more like the person in the body died, and then when they went up basically in the in-between before they left their body completely, a deal was struck in order to have a Sirius B, a written thought pattern, a written calculation of a soul embody that body. That's a walk-in. And walk-ins created a big-ass problem down here. A big-ass problem. Because a Sirius B walk-in, let's say, set in a Sirius A Orofusion body is going to put off a distorted frequency. Plus, this Sirius B walk-in is going to be controlling the mind of a body and making the body create things and making how we know the body and all of our bodies working together, especially in a wide open collective, rebirthing process. A Sirius B walk-in in let's say that Sirius B walk-in tried to walk in me. And I was always tuned in order to go inside the earth and rebirth. But the Sirius B walk-in took over, used my body to do it, and instead of me going into the earth and rebirthing everything naturally, I created AI, for instance. But having the capability in order to connect to everybody's bodies in order to do it. So Sirius B walk-ins were a huge since 2018, because it's really whenever their plan started picking up speed, and a lot of the things that we've had to end up going toe-to-toe with were, and the manipulations that were happening within the entire collective through the birthing cycle had to do with these infiltrations, and it didn't take many. It didn't take many. So that's another thing with this Sirius B energy that's kind of coming out and being shown to us. But I wanted to add that in there because it is a Sirius B, if there was a full-on walk-in takeover, it was coming from Sirius B. It could be both, Amber. So I'm going to hang up. I can't even see what time because I have my light on now. Thank y'all for being here. I'm going to go get back to my little mission. Okay, one more thing. We're making cards. That's what I'm going to finish up right now. We're making cards so that we can pull, you know, and figure out what energy is going on around us. And I've cut up my menus, and so I've got these little cards right now that I've been utilizing until ours are completed. And so I did a little card pull right before I went on here. And the crazy thing about it, I'm like holding this camera, but let me see if I can show you the colors. It's like not every, but a bunch of these. This is the colors that came out. Notice how dark they are. Number one, that's Aldebaran, which we've just talked about. That's where Jupiter is, that I just talked about. And Taurus, which is the other purple. So there's that royal access. I literally pulled it as far as what energy's coming in and connecting right now. Vega, which is the maroon and white, which is the point that's opposite Sirius B at 12 to 16 degrees Cancer, and Capricorn from 11:55 to 15:55 is Vega. And Vega is the 22 star races DNA. It's like a lot of us that are more like Lemurian connecting into Atlantis. Atlantean beings would have been more from a 22 cosmic star ray DNA type. The ones coming from Sirius would be more Lemurian, connecting more into the land and the water and all of the natural resources. And then that pole from Cancer, from Sirius B to Vega, is your twin pole. So that came out. And then Scorpio 2, which is all about the collective energy. And Scorpio 2 is now like, we've written our story. We've used our white magic and all of our DNA connectivity in a high vibe way in order in the higher to write our new stories. Scorpio 2 is where those characters are going to start coming into your world, not the making of them. So that came out. That's these two, along with Lyra 2, which is on both sides of Vega, like a flower. Vega goes right in the middle. Lyra 2's on each side, and it's connected to the second root race. And all has to do with energy changing physicality as it comes through your body. Changing physicality as it comes through your body. So this would be called like even a witch or warlock type of energy, but everybody's got it. You just have to clear it. It's taking an apple and turning it into a bird, but you're having to really become the apple. Your whole body is having to become the apple and work through your energy field to turn it into a bird. You're not just doing it with your mind. And this degree also, a lot of people who have, because it's on both sides. So this is 8 degrees Capricorn to 11:55, so right before Vega. And then 15:55 to 18 degrees Capricorn. So if you've got those degrees, you're here to remember you're a healer. You're people who have these degrees, you're going to probably have more ailments in your life as far as sickness or something like that. And it's all because that energy came into your body and got trapped because you didn't remember that you could turn it into something else on the other side, but you had to use your body to do it. So I found it really, really, when these came out, I was like, because I didn't have any lights on or anything, I was like, oh my God, besides the Lyra 2, there are all these dark colors, these density colors that came out, and these more expanded more fields, you know, with 2 royal stars, when the majority of our energy right now is in Cancer, these pastel colors, light pink and white, baby blue and yellow, and this rose color and mustard. So the majority of the energy right now with Sun and Venus in Cancer is that pastel. But whenever you get to that pastel, you're inside the mind. You're inside the soul carousel of how everybody was hooked up down here in our weird little balloon system. You're inside your heart. You're inside the densest muscles, which create this high frequency pattern, because you're in so deep but connected so far out. So what energy is coming up is the denser parts of that, which is also what's causing us to wring ourselves out in order to get rid of those last little things that we've told ourselves, including myself, because we're all doing this together, in order to fully embody everything we've worked for to move forward. Amber, I'm live. I'm not on a loop. If you say it one more time, I'll put you on a loop. You can believe what you want, but I'm live. Would you like me to show you? In fact, I'm going to do it right now. I'm not on a loop. Maybe you are. And I'm not on here talking about maxing out credit cards at 20, but if you were born in the 70s and you were around in the 90s, I guarantee you had a bunch of department store credit cards, because it's how the financial industry is set up within Venus in order to fuck us all over. It's 4:03. Look. 4:04 on July 4th. 444. I'm live.